So Bank is the first map picked by PSG. Second map is Oregon, picked by Mir. Decider is Chalet. So Bank, Oregon, Chalet. Mir Gaming is the new kids in the block. They have imported players. Shame on them. Shame on them. We got Sloth and Blur from Europe over here. They're living in Korea long term to work with Mir Gaming. Parker's a beautiful signature. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Sloth drops 20 kills this game. Honestly, I think he drops 21 but loses. It's gonna be one of those games. And then by second map, he's gonna be so fucking tilted that he's gonna drop nothing and throw on purpose, and then we win 2-0. That's literally the game plan. We're gonna throw bodies at Sloth just to beat them. So we're actually up against the SI champion. The PSG boys are up against an SI champion in Blur and Sloth. And Sloth. Sloth gets 3 aces, gets picked up by Beast Coast next major. I like that storyline. Sloth went to Korea for... Oh my... Okay, this is the first time I have seen the new overlay in person, because I haven't watched any of the qualifiers yet. This is rough. This is actually rough. Oh no. I've only seen photos on Twitter, and you know, a picture says 1,000 words, but a video is infinite. Like, yeah, I don't like this. Change is always hard, let's be honest. But look how much space it takes up. Half the weapon skin, when you watch smoke, you can't see the weapon skin, because the elevated cards go up so far. Oh, 45 GG. Look, you can't see the weapon skin. Pilot program skin, millions of dollars of value, and you literally cannot see the weapon skin anymore when these are elevated. Also, I gotta move my cam now because I'm covering the overlay. Wait. Where do I go? Like, I can go here because there's no player cams. So for now, I can go here. But if we had player cams, I guess I can go anywhere, right? We have Fenrir mines here, kill feed. I can go here. Top left? I mean, I can... Then I block the draw. I can go here. I think this might be fine.
Rehost is confirmed, and we will be getting...
We should have a rehost here.
To a break, I think, and maybe look to try and figure things out.
I think it's always weird when you have... Because obviously, an esports broadcast is a square, right? It's a fucking monitor. Most games, they have a lot of information like this. Or they have information like this. Like, this is like the bottom part. Right? But the issue is we have information like this. It takes up about 40% of the half of the screen, basically vertically, which is so much space. And again, it blocks the weapon skins, which is the massive selling point for organizations, and it's one of the only cosmetics that is shown in game, like gloves and weapon skins, obviously. The reason why they changed the HUD is very simple. With the introduction of Fenrir, for example, Fenrir's mine UI and demos as well is here, and it blocks up the UI for the teams. But instead of moving the UI, they moved, like, instead of moving two operators gadget UI, they have changed the entire observing UI, as well as it's just worse. Yeah, so before that, to minimize the HUD whenever demos or Fenrir was spectated, to show the HUD. Now, with the new UI, we don't have to minimize anymore to see the operators being played. We just gotta minimize all the time because it's too big. I think it was actually Gus himself on Twitter, since we have a rehost. Hello, Wet Tables, by the way. AKA The Wettables. What is Gus's Twitter? Oh, I found it. It's a set. Gus did make a tweet a lot about the UI, and he had some suggested changes that I thought were pretty good. So this is his version 3. So look at how more compact this is, right? So he's basically cut it down to be just utility in the bottom, gadget, the weapon that's equipped, and then where they are on the map, and then the name and the scoreline. And this already here takes up a lot less space than the current UI. Although I don't know if there's a health bar here. Like, I guess 64 is the health number, but I don't know if that's true. I don't see a health bar on the individual players. Is this the health bar? This green, is this the health bar, Gus? The blue thing. Oh, it would be the blue dropping down. Okay, yeah, I thought so. Because I think a health bar is great. I don't like numbers, but I love health bars. Just so viewers can very quickly glance and be like, okay, they have half health. Because if it's 50 out of 125, it's like, mental math, how much is that, you know? I think a visual, like, bang, health bar is always the best. But I think this is great. I think this is infinitely better than the UI that we have currently. And I hope that they're gonna reiterate, because I'm not too big of a hater when it comes to change. I think change is good, even though it's hard to adjust to. But I'm a big disliker of change with stubbornness, where like, this is final. Where it's like, why is it final though? Surely we can make versions, variations, improvements, etc. Also because we didn't beta test this UI. We just slap dab released it and now it's there. So if we can make some adjustments over the next, I don't know, off season till SI maybe, use it in ETH element 3, use it here for this qualifier, use it for EWC itself, you know, and then you can, okay, we have now learned with time that these are issues of interest that we can make better, for example. But yeah. Haven't they doubled down the UI and said they won't change it? Not that I know of. As far as I know, they're open to feedback. I did personally DM at the developer, a Siege Dev, on Twitter. And I was like, yo, like, what's the situation here? And they're like, oh, you know, they're happy for feedback. They're happy to, like, work on it and stuff. Now, there is an argument that Wettables also said they could just go back to the old HUD. Now, the thing is, this would never happen. And it basically has never happened. The issue with going backwards to, like, an old HUD is basically that you're saying that your product sucks. And almost no company would ever openly say that, right? It does suck. I agree with you. It does suck. But what the consumer says and what the producer says is not the same thing. If Ubisoft have spent $3 million on this new UI change, I really pray that that's not the case, right? Because it shouldn't have been all that much work. Not that much work. But let's say they spent X amount of work hours, X amount of money on it, X amount of effort. They're not gonna want to say, you know what, fuck it, scrap it, go back to the old one. They're gonna want to reiterate on the current one or be stubborn and say, fuck it, this is it. You know? I also think the reason why a lot of like people like myself, they're a bit bothered by it is simply that we were not contacted for the observing UI. And if I make a golf item, like an item for golf, I'm gonna ask golfers, pro golfers, enthusiastic golfers, hey, what do you need in equipment? Like, what do you look out for? What are things that you wanna have to work with? And I will listen to those golfers for feedback because they are the experts. We were not really reached out to as either casters or a talent as a unit. They're like, hey, as observers, as casters, as analysts, what is it that you guys want and what is it that you guys need and what do you think about our current situation? Very few individual players were reached out to, but they were reached out to so late in the process that they basically said we can't change anything right now. So it was, when they were reached out to, it was so late in the process that any feedback couldn't really be put into use until in the future iterations maybe, which just hasn't happened yet, of course. And this is an issue that when I was a player, we had the same issue. I went to 2 separate Pro League bootcamp workshops. I was beta testing the Goyu operator before the rework, Amaru before she came out. I did the canal rework. I did the deployable shield change where they have slits in them. And I also tested out other operators that have not released. Oh, and I did Wamai. So I beta tested like, what, 3-4 different operators. And I told them with Sua, because I did it with Sua back then in Montreal, I was like, hey, the deployable shield change, where you basically give the freaking, how do you make a shield? I don't know, like this? Like you have like the slits or whatever? Whenever you give that, I'm not sure what I've done here. I've made like 2 shields. Whenever you make the slits in them, we were like, this is broken. And we showed them a live demo where I, as a pro player, was up against Sua, who was an analyst. And I was a pro player outside Armory wall on border, and Sua was Jaeger behind the deployable shield and armory. And despite me being 50 times better than Sua as an individual player, Sua would beat me 9 out of 10 times behind the shield by just crouch peeking, lean peeking, one-tapping me because of the slits. Now, the only rule was I couldn't destroy the shield. I could repel, I could run, I could swing, I could prone, I could drone, didn't matter. I just couldn't destroy the shield. And 9 out of 10 times, a pro player would lose to an analyst in a gunfight. And we said, hey, if you want to have the shield and keep the slits, because like that's what you're like really want to keep them prone level, only prone. So that if you have the shield, you would have to prone on the ground to get visual information, which means you can't act upon that information yourself, because you can't fast peek when prone. And by the time that you stand up or crouch and then jiggle peek, they can have moved from their current position, and you won't have live information. It's just like if you want to watch a Valkyrie camera and then go off into throw a C4, that also has a downside. Whereas obviously with a Valkyrie, a teammate could watch it for you, so you could have a guy prone on the shield and say where the enemy is, and a second guy peek the shield. But that would require effort and coordination, and there's some risk involved. And you die to a nade with 2 people if that's the case, if it goes well for the attackers. And they basically just said to us, sorry, this is great feedback, but we're too far in the process to change anything. And we're like, well, why are we here to give feedback if we can't change anything? Like if it's set in stone, you know? That was my issue when I did feedback last time. Why are we here spending you guys money, our time and money, to work together on a product that is just simply not gonna change because it's too far along already? We did give feedback about Amaru. Amaru got a little bit of a nerf before she came out. She was really, really fast and really, really quiet and whatnot, and she had like crazy fast, like she could basically use her weapon while flying in the window. There was like no like gadget out, Amaru hook, change to weapon. It was like Amaru hook, weapon in hand, in the window. And I was like, that's broken. Like she's gonna fuck everything up, you know? And I think Amaru, the way she is today, after getting a few buffs after she came out, is actually in a really great state the way she's balanced currently. What was my Canal rework impressions? We changed 2 things about Canal when I reworked, when I tested it. So you know yellow stairs basement? It goes like this on the staircase. And it goes up, right? There's a window about here that you can rappel on as an attacker or jump out of as a defender. And it sees into the wall of the staircase. It doesn't see anything. If you go into Canal right now and you boot up the game, you'll see that there is actually a slot in the wall for a window that's concrete filled now, right next to it. This window sees the entire hallway of the Coast Guard building and the soft wall down here. If you wallbang or Ash as a soft wall, you see all of the fucking main stairs and Old Bridge. This window was in the game when I beta tested Canal Rework. And we told them this window is too much. Because this singular window that had no real counters to deal with as a defender, there's no runouts or jump outs or flanks or anything, right? This sees the entire cutoff of an entire half of the map. So we said you gotta move this either to the right or to the left. So they moved it here. That's the new location. It doesn't see anything, but it's not. It's there, right? The other thing that we changed is that they also had. So this is yellow again. This is scuba room. There's a half wall. There's a ladder here. There's a double window, right? And then you have this hallway that goes down to another ladder into bathroom, right? When I was playing this map, it didn't go to bathroom. This ladder actually kept going, or this underground tunnel went all the way to the other building beneath the low bridge, and it would connect with garage in the other building. So this was like another way to go between the different buildings at a separate plane. So you had underground tunnel only for defenders, basically. You had new bridge, and then you had old bridge above. So you had 3 different separate ways to flank between the 2 buildings. And we simply thought it was too much movement for defenders to work with and too much ground for attackers to cover. So we said, we think it's better if you remove one of the 3 options. And we recommended the basement option because you can't contest this as an attacker. You would have to every single round go to garage, put down claymores, or have a drone, or always have a guy watching it, because attackers couldn't do anything with this tunnel. The only way up was a ladder and a ladder. Once you're in this tunnel, you're fucked. Just like you are now, but now connects to the bathroom, which is less valuable. So those are the only two major differences that I can remember that they changed from the canal rework to like when I beta tested it to when it came out a year later. There might have been some more minor changes, I'm sure there was, but those are the two changes that I recall that happened. Obviously, we also did, as I said, like the Goyo, he came out the way that we thought, like nothing was changed there. Amaru got nerfed a bit. And then we beta tested Wamai, but Wamai was a completely different operator. Wamai basically had... The gadget technically did the same thing, like it would work against projectiles, but it didn't work like the magnets that you know today. It was a completely different gadget. It did the same thing in concept, but the way it did it was entirely different. So when I beta tested Wamai, I was like, okay, this is very cool concept. And then when he came out, he was like a throwable Jaeger Wamai disc person. So a little bit different. And I think what they did with Wamai was great. I think he's a different Jaeger. Nowadays a better Jaeger, but back then a worse Jaeger. And you could stack Wamai and Jaeger together, which is super cool. But that's not the original concept that we tried when we tested him. But I'm also pretty sure the other version that we did test was way too strong for the game. Or at the very least had potential to be way too strong for the game. And then we also beta tested some future operators that have never been released, even till this day. Which I can't talk about. Yet. Actually, maybe I can. I don't know. Like, I don't go back and check. I think the NDA is 5 years. And if the NDA was 5 years, I can talk about it now. But I gotta double check before I do anything. But I'm pretty sure it's 5 years. But that's an operator that we tested that was like, this is gonna break the game. It was not like a siege operator. It was more like a... I don't know what game it would be from. But it was not a siege operator. But it was an operator that was gonna be in siege. And the gadget... It would just break the game sideways. It reminds me a little bit of Fenrir. Like, Fenrir kind of broke siege, in my opinion. Fenrir is a Valorant operator. It's literally a Valorant operator in every aspect. You can disable enable through walls by looking. You have activation points. You have an overuse of utility with separate active points. You have some counters, but they're soft counters. Fenrir is, to me, like a Valorant operator in Siege. Or Valorant agent in Siege. And the operator that I beta tested would be an ARPG enemy in Siege. I can't really go much further in detail than that right now, but imagine a creature or a monster or an ability from like God of War Ragnarok, like an ARPG kind of game, The Witcher 3, you know, that kind of game, but in Siege and FPS game. It just didn't work. Like it didn't click. I don't know. I don't think it's too bad when games they break the immersion, but I think Siege is such a good game and such a unique game that it's a shame that it's looking at like Valorant for inspiration, because I don't think it's worth to do that. I think Siege is very strong on its own, and I really don't think we need to try and be another arcadey shooter. We need to be like a tech shooter, like we always have been. Because the game is becoming more and more arcadey. The color, the graphics, the UI, the operators, the skins, pretty much everything. And I don't think skins alone are a bad idea. I don't think arcade games alone is a bad idea. I don't think individual events like that is a bad idea. But when you have everything going towards that direction, it feels like the entire identity is altered. And that I don't like. That I'm not a fan of. I reckon we'll see another Operation Help 2.0 where no ops, they focus on the whole game on cheater situation. Yes, we actually have that already. The Year 9 roadmap for Siege is actually Operation Help 2.0. So this is Year 9. We are currently here in New Blood. This entire year is more or less Operation Health. We're getting one new operator, one remaster, one new operator. That's the only like content that we're getting. No maps, no reworks, etc. Recruit doesn't really count as anything. It's the reused asset that was once in the game that was taken out. Now it's back in. because they are focusing on anti-cheat, some console quality of life upgrades like the leaning stuff, rekey binding, etc, etc, etc. We're getting the AI playlist, we're getting a lot of behind the scenes stuff, a lot of potential for future upgrades maybe. So this is as close to Operation Health as we're gonna get, I think. Because this basically is a very contentless season. We're getting a lot of behind the scenes mechanics and features, which they're great to have, but they don't work, A, as long as there's cheaters, because that kind of ruins the game, right? Like, who cares about the Siege Cup, the Siege in-client tournament, if all you're gonna face are cheaters? Who cares about Marketplace if all you play are cheaters? Who cares about shield rework if all you play are cheaters? Who cares about badges and console crossplay? And okay, console crossplay might actually be great. Like, I don't think there's any like real downside there necessarily. But again, like, how many players are around to play this if all you play are cheaters? Now this is a console thing, so it doesn't impact us so much, but still. Match cancellation 3.0, automatic cheater kick. That could be great if it works, but is it gonna work? I don't know. I hope so. I don't know. Could there be done more to fight cheating? Yes. But someone made a pretty valid point. Let me see where it was. I think it was the Godly Noob maybe that made a point on Twitter. So he made a post about the value of hiring individual devs to manually ban cheaters as an argument with someone else. And he basically did the math on how long it would take to watch games and ban cheaters and how many people would be needed to ban X amount of people a day. And the long story short, it's not really very good value. By having like 10, 20 people just sit there as their sole job is to watch videos and ban people. But it is one of those things that you would do that would benefit you directly because advertising. Let's say Siege has 10,000 viewers on Twitch, which it does very often, if not every single day. Let's say that you check out 5 of the top 10 biggest streamers on Twitch in Siege. And you see majority of them are playing cheaters. They might have a cheat counter on screen. They say they've played 7 out of 10 cheater games. You might ask them in chat, hey, how's the season so far? And they go, hey, a lot of cheaters. That is just terrible advertising for your game. Because Twitch is the primary advertising platform for most video games these days. Like directly, like there is YouTube, there is Pro League, etc. But Twitch is like your everyday, every hour, every second bread and butter for like how the game is actually doing in terms of community, viewership, engagement, etc. And those numbers directly translate to Pro League and other avenues as well. If a game is doing terrible on Twitch, it's very rare that it's doing good in general, although there are exceptions, of course. But very more often not, especially with multiplayer live service games, if it has no audience on Twitch and YouTube, it's not doing well in player numbers. So having streamers go, oh, cheating is pretty bad, but Ubisoft are working on it. They got like manual bans. Like if I face a cheater, I can DM this person. They get banned pretty quickly. Like don't worry, they're fixing it. That would give people hope, even if it's not super valuable. Like it does give people hope. Instead, right now it's like, oh, you know, it's worse than ever. Nothing's really changing. Ubisoft has actually stopped the manual ban department that we used to have access to. So people start losing hope. And that negativity spirals.
Players were running around with an operator that was banned originally, and then
that's tough.
It's